are welcome to the hosts of
The Bride of
Alternate Ending.
Oh, hello, ghouls and goblins. Just take a seat right here. You can fill out our new patient paperwork if you've never listened to Bride of Alternate Ending before. But don't worry, you're in good hands. I am your ghost, Dr. Brennan Klein, DDS, and with me, as always, is your co-ghost, our lovely and talented hygienist, Tim Brayton. How are you doing today, Tim?
I'm doing fine, Brennan, except for the fact that you're disgusting and filthy, and you don't care how filthy you are, and you are a decaying, disgusting whore.
This is true, actually. I mean, whore is questionable. I could up my whore quotient if I really tried.
That's fair. Well, you are in LA, so probably without that much effort.
Yeah. No. Oh, yeah, for sure. But I am decaying. I may or may not have strep throat right now. I'm waiting to find out.
All right.
Fingers
cool.
crossed.
Well, I look very forward to making you talk for the next 60 minutes.
No, see, that's why I didn't do like a big voice in the intro. I was like, okay, let's just take it nice and easy, and we'll see what happens. It hasn't really affected my voice. It does hurt to swallow, which is usually a bad sign. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I couldn't miss this. I wouldn't miss this for the world because we are kicking off quarter is a strong word for something that's going to run from September through November. But this is the first of 3 months where we will be talking about 1990s slasher movies that came out or were produced before the advent of Scream and it completely changing the genre.
Yeah, the original pitch was that this would be Autumn of Blood to describe the kind of post-'80s, but before the slasher had its Easter, so to speak. Unfortunately, the Summer of Blood is like 12 weeks behind right now, so it would feel silly to call that a sequel, but I will be finishing the Summer of Blood because you gave me such a lovely list.
Thank you.
But meanwhile, we begin the Autumn of Blood.
Exactly. I mean, there can never be enough slashers. So, we nominated 5 titles that fit this list and ones that we assumed we either needed to watch as academics or maybe wouldn't be the worst absolute things in the world, but it was still a wacky list. And what people voted for on Patreon was 1996's The Dentist. It is a Brian Yuzna joint that neither of us had seen, right? I hadn't.
No, I realized it was a Brian Yuzna joint when I saw the word Brian Yuzna pop up on the screen. I did not do my sufficient pre-films research for this one.
Okay, and how did that make you feel?
It made me feel good. It made me feel optimistic. Yuzna is someone who has not only made good films. I mean, he's got some stinkers. Who doesn't? But his name has been attached to some better than they had any reason to be films.
Yes, and only time will tell if this is one of those movies. But okay, we did not discuss this beforehand, so if you say no, that's fine. But would you mind walking us through the plot because you saw it more recently?
I would be happy to walk us through the plot, in part because I saw it more recently, and in part because, frankly, there's not a ton of plot to walk us through.
No, not really.
But the dentist in question is a certain Dr. Alan Feinstone, who is played by Corbin Burnson, who is, I think by the time this movie came out in 96, he's a get, I think.
Okay, from the thing that I know him from is that he directed Christian Mingle, starring Lacey Chabert, which I think is perhaps not the thing that everyone knows him from.
No, he's like an actor of note. He, I think he's more of a TV guy. I'm trying to remind myself like what apparently he was on like all of the episodes of Psych, but that was of course long after this. L.A. Law, that's it. He was on 170 episodes of L.A. Law. I don't know why I'm pronouncing it that way. L.A. Law.
Yeah, 2 shows that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole just because I am not interested in that kind of genre.
What about Ryan's Hope?
I actually don't know what Ryan's Hope is about. Is it a hospital? Is it a soap opera?
If I recall correctly, it's a primetime soap. The Trials and Tribulations of the Ryans, an Irish-American family. It's a primetime soap, for sure.
I did not think that Ryan was a family name.
It might actually be a daytime soap, now that I'm looking at how many episodes were produced per year.
Woof. Okay. I mean, sure. I mean, daytime. No judgment on daytime soaps. I just truly do not have the time to watch them, and thus have never even attempted to do so.
Daytime soaps were designed for housewives who are home all day and have nothing really to fill their hours. And if you are not that, you will not have enough time to give it what it needs from you, I feel.
Yeah, and I feel like the modern equivalent of that are shows like, I think Love Island is the reality show I'm thinking of, where it has like hour-long episodes 5 days a week or something, and I just don't know how anyone is able to do television. It's so difficult. And
I mean, I can't even do movies right now, so certainly the idea of doing television sounds very daunting.
I do love it. I think The Dentist might be the first movie you've watched in a fortnight, maybe a month. Is that correct?
No, because I also watched the Doris Day sex comedy Do Not Disturb.
Okay, good.
Yes. And by the time
a
this
perfect
episode
double
goes
feature.
live, I will have added at least a couple things to that. But yes, so Corbin Burnson, the great American icon, does play the dentist. And this particular dentist, we meet waking up one morning to go about his day, whereupon the first thing he does with this beautiful bright day in the LA suburbs is to be just unrealistically and unnecessarily belligerent towards his wife, who is played by Linda Hoffman. Her name is Brooke. And so our immediate first impression is that this guy is just a screaming asshole for really no reason at all. And then as his day goes on, he spies his wife with the sexy pool man, Matt. And what should he see happen? But she goes down on him on the edge of the pool. And this gives him a very bad morning. He's very upset by this. It becomes clear, I don't think it's clear in the moment, but it becomes clear later on, because he is a dentist. He views anything to do with dirtying your mouth is particularly upsetting and heinous, and this includes oral sex. So he's in a really bad mental state when he goes off to work, and he basically just spends that whole workday hallucinating that his patients have rotting, decaying teeth, or hallucinating that his patients are his wife, or hallucinating that his patients are the pool man. And eventually, he has hallucinated so long that he kind of leaves work in the middle of the day, returns home, and does very unfortunate things to both Matt, the pool boy, and his wife. And then the following day rolls around, and he starts doing even worse things, this time to patients, which feels like more of an ethical lapse to me, because your patients are not involved in your personal life. You shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff to them. But I don't know. I feel like that kind of covers it. Day one, he hallucinates. Day two, he murders people, dentistly.
Basically. And day two, a lot of these same characters are coming in and out of the office, because we are dealing with his staff and also appointments that have been postponed.
Yeah. Day one, he ended up not really doing anything because he was so upset. So everyone from day one has to come back day two. The one who stands out to me is someone that we recognize. There's a couple people. There is an up and coming model named April Rain, that is spelled Reign, because she as she explained, she both likes the pun, but also she's the queen.
Of course.
And her agent is played by teeny tiny baby Mark Ruffalo. His name is Steve.
He was kicking around in 90s horror. He was
clearly
in, I believe, Mirror 2. Also, he was just you could find him.
Yep. And the one specific thing that Dr. Finestone does on day one that's clearly evil is he does molest April Rain while she is under
nitrous oxide.
Nitrous oxide. Thank you. And Steve figures this out and is ready to destroy the doctor. But it's really the bulk of what he does is the second day. So April is the patient who kind of stands out on day one, and then both day one and day two is Sarah, I believe was her name, a teenage girl who is very anxious to get her braces off, who is the main person who gets kind of kicked back to the second day. There's a couple other faces who don't quite have as much of an impact. One of them is an IRS agent named Goldblum, played by Earl Bowen, who I think is a that guy, or at least he's a that guy to me, because he's in the Terminators. And he's not there for dentistry. He's there to threaten the doctor, but also to threaten him to get free dental work, as it turns out. So,
yes. Oh, it's lovely.
Yes.
But all of this, to me, kind of makes those scenes in the dental office, and also with the hygienist slowly realizing that something has gone terribly wrong. It kind of makes it feel like the horror thriller version of a door slamming farce, with just all of these characters keep popping in with their different motivations and their different needs, while Corbin Burnson is unraveling.
Yes. And there's also, I should say, like 3 featured like members of the staff. There's 2 hygienists. One is named Jessica. One is named Karen. There is the office manager, who I didn't jot her name, and I believe she might have been. Well, I'm looking it up the cast because I remember the actress was Jan Hoeg. It's
the character is Candy, I think.
Candy Whitridge, and then there's also a pair of detectives who one of the first things that Dr. Feinstein does is he shoots a dog. Mm-hmm. And because this is a very upscale part of L.A., the homicide department is called in to look at the dog shooting. And,
I didn't even think about that. That's so silly.
And one of the investigating detective is played by Ken Foree, who is, of course, horror movie royalty. So that was very exciting to see him pop up.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead. He was in From Beyond, which is a personal favorite, which Brian
I believe
Yuzna might have had a
Yuzna.
hand in.
I think he was the producer of that.
Okay, yeah, I think so. Because, it was Stuart Gordon directed and Charles Band had his fingers on that. Yeah, but I think Yuzna was probably involved, too.
Yeah, I think From Beyond was the last time that Yuzna and Stuart Gordon collaborated.
Oh, that would explain why Castle Freak is kind of boring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think both of them suffered for splitting, although arguably Yuzna suffered less, honestly.
That might be true. I think Yuzna suffered less artistically, perhaps.
That's fair.
Because a lot of his movies kind of languished. Like, he made like Silent Night, Deadly Night 4.
Sure, but I guess
is one
I
of the
should
more
rephrase.
notably odd installments.
That's true. I should rephrase and say I don't think that Stuart Gordon, after the breakup, made anything as good as Society. Is I think specifically what I meant.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. But yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of characters kicking around. I really enjoyed all of this. Also, Jessica was an actor who was like, I know who that is. Who is that? And turns out she was on one episode of Friends as the teacher at a cooking class.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, I watched too much Friends when I was in high school. Yeah, a surprisingly solid bench of character actors and almost character actors in this movie.
Yes.
I barely know where to start, but I'm curious. I've kind of tipped my hand a little bit, but did you like The Dentist?
I would say about The Dentist that I think it is a very good idea. I think the hook of a very entitled man who has an extremely unhealthy relationship to hygiene and has allowed it to sort of corrupt his way of thinking about the world. Being sexually humiliated and letting that so discombobulate him that his brain breaks and he goes nuts. And he's a dentist on top of that. I think this is a good hook. I feel like this 92-minute movie is about 30 minutes of plot. So I feel like it's very much stretching things out, trying to make sure it hits 90 minutes.
I would certainly agree that the coda at the dental school is completely unnecessary, except for maybe the final shot of that sequence, which is kind of a nice tableau.
The final shot is like a good shot. There's some very good shots in this film. We'll talk about the cinematography, but I will tip my hat and say I think it's got some very interesting compositions.
Yeah, but I think, I agree. I mean, I think maybe my brain has been melted by watching hundreds and hundreds of slasher movies, but, I don't mind that the plot is kind of vignette-driven, especially because I found so many of them so effective and so tense, and I found them to build quite well upon each other. Especially, I mean, it was an ace in the hole of doing dentistry as horror, and just the parts where he's poking around with that scrapey metal thing, or just literally one of the gorier moments is just him putting a needle into somebody's gum. There's things that you would naturally do or encounter as a dentist that are already a little too much for a lot of people. And then building on that, there's a moment where he's basically this woman he is trying to punish because she is a friend of his wife who is also sleeping with the pool boy, and thus is both dirty and also, he has fouled his life through the chain of sexual communication. He's just using the drill to turn her teeth into powder, or at least this one specific tooth, and he's just really digging into it, and I found it all really effective. Even goofier Brian Yuzna-y kind of cartoon gore effects that come later.
I would say that you say even those as though those had a higher bar to clear. I actually liked the cartoony ones a little bit more, and I will also say at this point, because I do think it matters, I am not someone who is even a little bit afraid of the dentist.
Okay.
And I'm like, I think it's fine that the dentist is drilling and scraping and poking and blood's coming out of the gums and whatnot. So like a lot of this I think is based on the literalization of a fear that everybody has, or the film sort of presumes that everybody has, where you go to the dentist, it's like, who knows what he's going to do? Is he going to rip out your teeth and you're going to have, and I don't have that fear. So it's not tapping into anything that I like. I don't want to say that the movie gets no fuel from me. Like the movie has to do all of its own burning for me on its own behalf. And I don't know if it quite gets there, but I will say I still think it's a very like well-made version of the thing it is. I just I think it takes a little bit too long to get to the fireworks factory, basically.
Yeah, if that's not doing anything for you, then for sure I can see why that wouldn't work. And I wouldn't say that I personally am afraid of the dentist, but I do find the scraping bits to be viscerally unpleasant as a sonic experience and kind of a tactile one. My gums fucking bleed all the time. I'm a grown adult and I floss sometimes. It happens. I don't really mind that. But yeah, just something about the scraping is really where it affects me, and that scene definitely got to me.
Yep. I will say, vis-a-vis dentist trips, my first post-COVID dentist trip, which was like 3 years after my preceding one, my gums had gotten so nasty that as the hygienist did the scraping and the tucking and the whatnot, my gums bled so bad that the dentist said, you have to come back in 3 months for your 6 month checkups because we want to make sure your gums like healed from this experience.
Oh my God.
And I was still like, okay. And I was fine with that. So I'm very like not concerned about the dentist at all.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. It's my superpower. It's the only thing I'm good at is not being.
Yeah, see, I guess this is for you is, this also applies to you, but like, this is like when people are really scared of religious horror, and I'm just like, I don't, this is not for me. As a very secular atheist, I'm just like, okay, what's going on here? It doesn't bother me.
And that's very much the response I have had to like The Exorcist as well. Like intellectually, I'm like, yes, this is a well-built version of the thing that it is. The thing that it is can't scare me.
Yeah, I wouldn't extend what I'm saying to The Exorcist necessarily, because I can definitely get on board with there is something terribly wrong with my child. And
yes, for sure.
Yeah. Like that is what compels me. But once we like
it is not the power of Christ.
No, that does not compel me. You're right. And I was about to say, that sequence I think is really dynamic and really well filmed, the exorcism sequence. But I'm not narratively compelled by it, because it's like, okay, you just shouted louder at the devil, like at the, it's Pazuzu, whatever. But there's no push and pull to that for me.
I know this is not an Exorcist podcast, but just to wrap up my thoughts, because otherwise I'll have Exorcist blue balls for the rest of our recording. Okay. To me, it is a movie that is superb when the protagonist is Ellen Burstyn, and is a lot less superb when the protagonist is the two Catholic dudes. I forget the other actor who's not Max von Sydow.
Jason Miller.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, no, a crisis of faith drama is never going to do it for me. Because I'm like, I don't have that. I'm not worried about losing it.
And I mean, there are crisis of faith dramas that do work for me. Like, I am a big ol' Ingmar Bergman fan, if we can just take this careering even further away from 90s horror. But no, I don't know. Exorcist it's a well-made movie that just is not pushing a single of my buttons.
Yeah, and I can see how the dentist might do that. I was fully on board with the dentistry as horror bits. Like I said, I really liked these characters kind of basically like locked in an office together and kind of rattling against each other. It felt like a play, but in a nice way. Like a lot of movies that feel like plays will feel kind of limited. But I just had a good time. And the cartoon gore is quite good. I think it is effective on a different level than the dentistry horror is. But you gotta love a big Brian Yuzna gore effect, especially like the IRS guy ends up having these like bizarre metal. His mouth just turns into like a cathedral of metal and blood.
It's pretty great. It is, I think, my favorite effect in the film, although I also do like the spoiler sensitive for the moment, the individual who has no teeth left after they have encountered the dentist. I think that is a very realistic looking cartoon gore effect, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that one, there are moments where it is showcased that are great and moments where it is less great, but it is very impactful.
It is a great pity that one of those moments is the last scene, where it's not as great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I found that all very effective, and there's stuff that I found, even outside of the gore, I found kind of viscerally upsetting, because while I do not have the extreme, like, society-esque fascination with decay that Corbin Bernsen does, I am a germaphobe, and there's a scene, like, that's really meant to kind of put you in his headspace and how he's feeling, where the pool man has been cleaning this filter and his hands are covered in grime, and he's having sex with this man's wife, and his fingers are leaving these like brown greasy track marks on her body as he's touching her, and it's disgusting, and I was really affected by those moments too.
Okay, I can see that. It's, I think, again, just the movie doing a thing well, that it wasn't a thing that I was like necessarily specifically personally feeling. I liked that as a kind of very cheesily on the nose visual metaphor for what's going on, which is the dentist feeling that his woman has been befouled. So I liked that, because I like that the movie was pitched at that level of obviousness is I think the word I want to use, but like it's pretty straightforward about like the kind of man the dentist is and the kind of way he's like grossed out by the world and how that leads him to be just a completely failed human being. But it didn't like gross me out. I don't know, it's just dirt. You wash it off and you go about your day.
Yeah,
it's not like he's putting pool gunk up in her business.
He's maybe about to.
Well, maybe. We don't see it because it's not that kind of movie.
No, I mean, it almost. I mean, I'm sure Brian Yuzna would have made that kind of movie at some point. But yeah, anyway, so, but even talking about this kind of decay theme and the kind of specifics of his psychosis, I think what I thought the dentist was going to be walking into it was very different from what I got, and I thought it had more layers than I thought it was going to, and it was doing more things than I expected. I expected what most early 90s slashers are, which is like a very pale imitation of Freddy Krueger, a lot of dentist puns, and like just very basic, this dentist is crazy kind of stuff. And that's not really what they're doing.
Not remotely. And I was expecting precisely the same thing. I was expecting just, dentist is a slasher. And it is certainly not that, to a degree where I think even calling it a slasher film is more just because you got to put it in a bucket. And that's probably the closest bucket for parts of the running time. But I think if one goes into it wanting it to be a slasher film, I think one will be just completely disappointed.
Yeah.
But in a good way, because the movie's more interesting than that.
Yeah, it is more interesting than that. And even like in basic things like set design, like all of the dentists' offices have different themes to them. Like this is the rainforest room. This is the kind of like heavenly angels room. And there's one that are revealed later on that is designed to look like La Scala.
Yes.
And it's an operatory. And all of that I found delightful and just above and beyond what this movie needed to be, because you could sell a movie in the 90s called The Dentist where a dentist is killing people, and
100%.
They did something with it, and I do think that's the Brian Yuzna of it. I think he was interested in this. Sorry, we're gonna say something.
Well, I was gonna say the Brian Yuzna of it. It very much feels like a follow-up to Society.
Yes.
Although I think it is not as good as Society at all.
No. Well, actually, I think I literally gave it a higher score than Society. So I'll have to think about it. I think the heights of Society are not matched by the heights of The Dentist.
I think the gore sequence, gore is not even the word, the body horror sequence that ends Society is operating on a level that nothing in The Dentist even imagines operating on.
Absolutely.
I also feel like that Society's social satire is in some ways it's kind of silly and it's kind of, dumb genre movie, but I think a dumb genre movie gets to be dumb. That's fair. But it's very elaborated upon satire. And I feel that the dentist's satire is basically men. And that's kind of about as far as it goes. And that's fine. I mean, it's a movie about a killer dentist. I don't need it to be like a complicated social document. But I think that is enough for me to give points to society.
Yes, I do agree, because the satire here is kind of sitting on top of the movie.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily baked into the premise as much. I do think of it, I think I described it in my Letterboxd review as like a fantasia on the theme of decay.
Sure.
Which I think is already more than the thing needed to be. But I don't know that it does not need a message or a theme that's really parsable, but it also does not really have one.
And I would agree with both of those. And again, is it fair to say for that reason it's not as good as Society? Probably not. But I certainly... Society was a film that I was like jazzed up by, and this is a movie I was entertained by.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fine. Like, I just showed Ben Joyride for the first time, the Paul Walker thriller. It's really, really... It's just a really good, well-built, solid thriller. I mean, I also love a road thriller. Like, it obviously doesn't exist without Duel or The Hitcher. Mm-hmm. But it's just really solidly built, and it has absolutely nothing to say, and I think that is fine.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And it just... I kind of put it in that bucket with Wes Craven's Red Eye of, like, you're just gonna have a good time, and you're gonna want to watch it every 5 to 7 years and just have a good time again, and it's just very reliable.
And that's entirely fair. And I guess for me, yeah, because I think you're right. I don't think this movie needs to be more than it is. It's the difference between Society, which is what, 89? Or Society 90? So
89. So
Society is a movie that coming out in 1989 being about what it's about, I am flabbergasted that it's as good as it is. I cannot fathom how it was as good as it was. Mm-hmm. The Dentist coming out in 1996 is like, oh, that's really cool. I'm glad you made a 1996 movie about a killer dentist that I liked. As opposed to, I expected to not like this movie, and I'm at a 3-star with it, because I think it's good. And a killer dentist movie from 1996 being at 3 stars is like a fucking miracle.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's also, I think that is partially, I mean, the things we've already talked about, the things that affect me personally more than you, are part of why my score is higher. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. But it's also that same thing that kind of pushes me beyond. Like, I think I have more of a tolerance for these kind of pre-Scream slashers than you might, which is not saying much. They're mostly quite bad. But I almost never have a terrible time with them, even though I know that they are demonstrably worse for the most part than their 80s counterparts. So this felt like so much higher to me.
I haven't seen nearly as many 90s slasher films as you have, so I would hesitate making blanket statements. I feel like nothing I've seen some quite terrible 90s slasher movies, but the average seems to be higher, I would actually say, than the late 90s, because like nothing in the early 90s pisses me off the way that the I Know What You Did Last Summers do.
Oh, that's a great point, because as much as I mean, I know you're not even a huge fan of Scream, but Scream is like very much credited for kind of reinventing the genre and changing it, but almost all of the movies that followed it are bad.
Scream was made by people who were uniquely capable of making Scream, and the movies trying to be Scream are made by people who cannot do it. Whereas anyone can make a 90s slasher film. Like, you don't need to have a very refined skill set, and I think that's maybe what it is. Yeah.
And to be fair, since we are going to be talking about 90s slashers for 3 months, I think it's important to point out that like it's not all a hell realm of misery and horror, because we do have Candyman, we do have Wes Craven's New Nightmare in this period. There are things that are good,
and I would frankly I'd put The Dentist on that list. I think that this is a perfectly solid, watchable, good movie. And I think the last time you and I talked about a 90s horror movie together was what was that movie about the CD-ROM that kills people?
Oh God, the Edward Furlong movie?
Yeah, was it Brain Scan?
Yeah, Brain Scan.
Yeah, this is 10 trillion times better than Brain Scan.
Absolutely. But whenever I dive into a 90s slasher that I've not seen, and especially one with this title and premise, I'm expecting an Uncle Sam. I'm expecting Leprechaun or The Ice Cream Man with Clint Howard, stuff like that.
Sure.
And this is just so much better than any of that nonsense.
And I will certainly say thank you for reminding me of Uncle Sam, because I'd like to rescind what I said about no early 90s slasher pissing me off as much as the Summers is.
There are a lot of stinkers in there. But that's an interesting point, because the Scream kind of draws the veil in really early 97, because it came out on December 26th in 96. But there's a lot of shit after that. It honestly didn't. It changed what slashers looked and acted like more than it changed the quality of the genre.
Sure.
But anyway, back to the dentist. We love not talking about the dentist. I think I will throw out, there are some things that I did not like about the dentist. I'll try to get in the muck with you a little bit.
Well, can I then, before we go there, because I want to say that there was another thing I did really like quite a bit, and I do want to meet the movie halfway, because it's trying to do a thing. It's not working on me personally because of my relationship with dentistry. One of the things he hallucinates is he sees the person in front of him, but with exaggeratedly decayed teeth. That's one of his kind of. I think he sees it 3 or 4 times. That is a good effect. It got me really upset. I was like, what if my teeth looked like that? That would suck. And that worked for me. I thought that was a really, really good effect. It's not like a cartoon gore effect, more of a very realistic attempt to depict tooth decay.
Yeah. No, there are things that just work and that are on that physical, realistic level. And yeah, no, that is really gross.
But you wanted to crawl down in the muck. So
yeah, just a little bit.
Let's go ahead.
I guess I will open this by asking you a question. Maybe you know this, maybe you don't. Do dentists do braces?
I do not believe that they do, and yes, that distracted me as well.
Okay, yeah, that was one thing. I really, really liked the character of Sarah. I liked the way she functioned. And spoiler alert, I guess, she gets the final girl sequence. She doesn't really behave like a final girl before or after that, functionally in the narrative. But she does get a good chase with the dental cape still around her neck. That's a great touch.
Yes.
But anyway, I was like, when I got braces, that was an orthodontist. That was an entirely different office. And the thing that also upsets me is that this is the demerit to the very excellently titled sequel to this movie, which is The Dentist 2, Brace Yourself.
That is an extremely good title.
It is, but I just don't think it's accurate.
No.
But, you just got to allow things. Things I will not allow. I don't think the score is very good. And it is by John Carpenter's sometime collaborator, Alan Howarth?
I don't know how to pronounce the name, actually.
Okay.
But we'll go with that. I would agree. The 90s was a tough time for low budget film, because we had just enough digital music making tools that it was a very attractive option, but they weren't good enough for the results to ever work.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. And maybe they could only afford him for 1.5 stings, because they do really lean on this a little too kooky haunted house riff that kind of feels like it's doing the ba 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 from the Addams Family theme song. And it's too goofy and it's too repetitive and it's just not interesting.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say the score was bad enough to take me out, because to a certain extent it was just the bad score that I anticipate a 90s horror movie to have.
Yeah.
But it is certainly a bad score.
Absolutely. And okay, so maybe you can explain this to me. Maybe you know this. I'm throwing you a lot of quiz questions today.
Okay.
But there is something that happens with cheap horror movie sets, and I'm sure other sets, but this is the type. This is where I live, where you can tell that they're a cheap set, because the doors have this weird kind of almost charcoal effect on them, like they've been smeared with black. And I don't know what that is. But it happens in some of the later cheap Elm Street movies too, like in the Dream Realm, where they've clearly constructed a set kind of haphazardly. But do you know what I'm talking about? Does that ring a bell?
I do know what you're talking about, and I cannot explain it. But no, I certainly know what you are referring to, and it's clearly something to do with the fact that we are watching, flats with a door in them.
Yeah.
But
I'll have to ask my boyfriend. He works in technical theater. He might know.
Okay.
But yeah, it has that, and that just it's always a dead giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
Like when an Australian pretending to be American says the word anything. Like there's always a tell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Portia de Rossi, she's never learned it. She's always like, "Can I do anything for you, Michael?" Anyway, yeah, that's kind of the only things I think are like genuinely bad. Other than like, I've really gone around the corner with Mark Ruffalo, and I have not found a performance that I've liked from him in anything I've seen in the past 5 years.
Mark Ruffalo realized, I don't know what I think he's extraordinarily bad in Poor Things. And that has completely colored all of my response to Mark Ruffalo in anything.
For me, my turning point with him was watching Now You See Me for the first time a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And that is also an extraordinarily bad performance. But I was like, I remember liking him in things, either being ambivalent or I feel like I liked him in Spotlight when I saw it, but Spotlight's such a 7 out of 10 kind of movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's good in Spotlight. He's superb in what's the sibling movie? You Can Count on Me. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
He's amazing. It was like his big breakout with critics. 4 years after this, I think it's a Kenneth Lonergan movie. One of the very small number of Kenneth Lonergan movies that work. And I like him in that mode. Something about his like, I'm gonna go have fun with it. I never have fun with him.
No, me neither.
And like when
right.
he's playing like the Hulk with glasses in the Avengers Endgame, I wanted to beat my head against a wall. I mean, everything about Endgame, but that specifically was like my least favorite performance maybe in that movie. So yeah, I mean, I don't think he's uniquely bad in this. I think he's just kind of there. But,
yeah, he's just kind of there. But he's a specific thorn in my side lately when he shows up.
No, I get that. I will say, since you've opened the door to chat about the acting, there's a lot of names in here that are like good names to have in your movie, and I'm glad that they're here. I feel like the acting is not great for the most part. I think Corbin Burnson is very good, given like what the role is. It's kind of a shticky, goofy role. I generally disliked. I thought the three people playing his like staff were kind of all like specifically bad.
I didn't have that same issue, but they are playing it a little camp. Like they're playing it up a little bit.
And I guess I feel like what I want is for them to not be playing it up, because I want there to be a contrast. And instead it's just like, here's the campy doctor's office. Even the doctor's insane. Wah, wah. And like, I would much rather it be like a baseline normalcy that feels like it's getting perverted. And I'm not getting that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I really felt that, because I think maybe camp's not the right word for me, from my experience. Like, they are playing stock characters, and you can kind of tell that they are playing characters. It's not very naturalistic. Yeah. But I do think that a lot of the office scenes are like adequately normal and mundane.
Okay.
At least for me. Like, at least when we see Candy interacting with the patients and telling them to wait and stuff like that, kind of worked okay for me.
That's fair. And then I'd say my other thing that I think rises a little bit above just a mere nitpick. I mean, it is a pretty petty thing. I did like the sets. I agree with you. The themed dentistry rooms are very cool. I did not have a sense at any point in this movie how the dentist's office is laid out.
That is a problem.
And when the final girl sequence rolls around, that's an active problem.
Yeah, because you see a lot of this hallway with all the doors coming off of it, but it's really difficult to tell, like, which room is his office? Like, how are there are patient rooms that, like, you open a door and you're in a different patient room, and that doesn't really make any sense.
The point where I just kind of, like, I felt the movie threw me out of it was when Sarah is locked in, she has locked herself in the rainforest room, I think, and then she goes out the other door. And my response was like, why are there two doors? Like, when I have never been in a dentist office where the like examining rooms had two doors. Well, my current dentist, it's not even like doors, it's just cubicles. But like that really, really threw me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the it's bizarrely designed, and also the geography isn't set up super well. Yeah, that is a problem. I agree.
It's a movie that demands an early scene that's like he's like giving a tour to a new patient or something, and he like and we kind of get that because he kind of explains like what's going on with the rooms. But he uses a phrase that I did not think to write down, unfortunately. But it's like the new thresholds in interactive dentistry or something like that.
Oh, yeah, something like that.
And I was very pleased. But like that's the point where you like explain where's the front room relative to the examining rooms, where are they relative to each other, and that is just it felt every room felt like an isolated set to me.
Yeah. There's probably a reason for that. But yeah, they could have tried harder to have at least an internal idea of it that
that's
they could
the
then
magic of
deliver to
movies,
us.
baby.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
editing. You take spaces that aren't connected and you're like, no, these spaces are connected. No, I'm in this audience. I'm like, they sure are.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, no, you're right. That's not something that I necessarily thought of while I was watching the movie, but you were completely right.
I didn't think of it until the final girl sequence, at which point it was kind of all I could think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a problem because that's a pretty good sequence otherwise.
It is. I think that Sarah is the best of the patient characters. Not that there's a lot of competition there, but like, and when I say patient characters, I guess I mean the people who are not staff and are not the wife and are not the dentist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, she's quite good. But yeah, I just to because I did really like the dentist, so I'm ready to back out of the muck and start wiping my hands free of filter grime.
Oh, look at a beautiful woman's thigh.
Of course, as I frequently do. I touch those very often. But this is something that you kind of pointed to earlier. The cinematography of this movie, I think, is quite good in a lot of different moments. It's at least doing exciting things.
I think that's. So I would draw two distinctions here. I think the compositions are frequently doing very exciting things. It has a very fearless use of skewed angles, including in that final shot we were talking about, where, and I mean, it's the easiest way in the world to be like, this character's perspective is fucked up. Look, the camera's on its side. But it works, and that's why people overuse it, and I think Yuzna is using it correctly. I don't think he's leaning on it. I think he's letting it be a flavor. And he's flavoring his dish very spicy, but it's not overwhelming the meat. Apologies for that horrible metaphor. The lighting, which is sort of the other half of cinematography, I think this is a good thing. It feels very flat and uniform and untextured in a way that suits this being a movie about a dentist.
Yes. That's probably not on purpose. It's one of those things probably not on purpose because that's kind of what these movies looked like in the 90s.
But sometimes it works, and I think it worked.
Yes. No, I completely agree. But yeah, for me, I think compositions are kind of what I was pointing to. Like, there's a lot of really fun things that they're doing. And there are things that are a little bit more clever or a little bit more interesting than they really needed to be. Like, there's a moment that I really liked that actually established a geography that we didn't need. But there's a moment early on where Corbin Burnson has called in his wife from the pool, and the phone rings and he answers it, and he's talking to the IRS, and he takes the cordless handset and he walks like out of the room and then like around and back into the room from the other side. So he's like behind the wall where the fireplace is. And so we are hearing his conversation and kind of tracking where he's going. But we are also watching his wife come in and kind of listen to this conversation in the foreground. And, like, she's the action, but he's what we're hearing. And I thought all of that was, like, just a little more sophisticated than it had to be.
I agree. And I think what we're seeing there is that the house was a location. And the dentist office was a set. And I think that what we're seeing is they got into this location and they're like, this is cool. We can set up the camera here and we'll be able to see back through there. And you can see the pool from this window if you're standing over here. And so I think that's what happens when you actually have like contiguous spaces that you can put the camera in, compared to we built a room that looks like a La Scala, and then 2 doors down, we built a room that looks like a waiting room. Like,
yeah, no, that's true. And I will say they kind of try a little bit. Like there is a shot that tracks Brooke's feet as she comes into the dentist's office and walks into his into the back, but it doesn't establish anything very well. But it is kind of nice. There's also there's cinematography that gets you into his head. There's a great weird. I guess this is like a visual effect more than it is cinematography, but it's the overall aesthetic of the movie. Where he's looking at a photo of his wife and her friend in bikinis by the pool, which was a choice to have on his desk in the first place. But he does see the pool boy kind of fade into the background of the image. And that's just it's a really simple but effective way of telling us what he's thinking about and how the things that were normal in his life are being befouled by this man.
Yeah, no, that works for me. Again, pretty straightforward choice, but I think it's used well. Whenever he's about to start hallucinating, they I know how this is done. It's like taking an anamorphic lens and like turning it or something. I forget the exact details, but like the image kind of like warps and like turns in a circle, like the part of it that's warping, so it looks like his forehead is kind of swooshing around a little bit. I described it terribly, but like it's a pretty stock thing to do with your lenses, but like it looked really good, and it was a very useful cue because the script is not telling you when he's hallucinating, so it's down to the visuals to do that. And I think that it's you get to do that when the writer and the director are the same person, as I believe they were in this case. I will be goddamned. I did not realize who wrote this.
Co-written by Stuart.
This was co-written by Stuart Gordon. They were still working together at this point. Maybe they'd gotten back together. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot it until you looked it up. I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing his name in the credits.
Yesta did not write this at all. It was co-written by Dennis Paoli and Stuart Gordon on the one hand, and then Charles Finch. So yeah, I don't know, but I lost my train of thought. But no, just I think the visuals are doing a nice job again of adding a flavor. It's not an imaginative thing to do, but it's what this movie needed it to be.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like this movie isn't necessarily like the most imaginative, creative, out-of-the-box movie you've ever seen. It's just adding more flavors than it needed to, and most of them work quite well.
And again, to me, it's like, what do I expect of a 1996 movie called The Dentist? Well, I expect it to be a lot shittier than this.
Yes. And they do a lot of the stuff that you might expect a movie called The Dentist to do, at least in terms of how he treats people, or like how he attacks people, the things that he says, but they all work a little better than the kind of like shitty Freddy Krueger copy. And then also like the shots that you kind of expect to get are also quite good. Like there's a shot of him having the mirror in somebody's mouth, and you see his kind of enraged eyes reflected in the mirror from inside their mouth, it's just a great shot. It's what you would do when it's the first thing you write down when you're making a movie called The Dentist, but it works.
I liked that shot. I liked in general the shots inside actual mouths rather than like prop mouths.
Yeah.
There's one remarkably bad looking prop mouth. I think it's the neighbor friend lady's like rotten toothed mouth or something. It just looks incredibly fake, I thought. But I think in general the shots that are just like in mouths and acknowledging that there is something wet and nasty going on every time you go to the dentist, those shots generally worked for me.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Oh, and also there's kind of an exciting overhead shot when he kills the pool man, which is not in a dentist related way really, but he's like confronting him by the pool, and the pool man's kind of backing up while Corbin Burnson is kind of like slashing across his throat back and forth with a knife, and we're seeing all of this from like the bird's eye view. That's a really cool moment. I really liked that. And
it's a good example of, I think, one of the things this movie is good at. It is hiding its budget well, because I think that's straightforwardly we could spend X amount on gore, and X did not include a slashed throat effect, so we're getting it done in an artful way that sort of distracts you from realizing that's what's going on.
Yeah, and it kind of makes it feel more impactful because like you are seeing the whole moment. It's not cutting to a prosthetic. It's just you're watching him slash at his throat, and then it ends in a, I guess, kind of Tom Savini-esque way in what he did around his gore pieces of like making things feel realistic. Of like when the body falls, he knocks over this big like pool tent thing. So it does create this way of like the fake death that we are putting on is like having a real impact on the environment around it.
Yeah.
And makes it feel more realistic. And yeah, I don't know. I had a fucking good time watching The Dentist. I'm sorry you had just an okay good time, but I'm glad you liked it. I
feel like that also speaks to our set points on 90s horror, though.
Yeah.
Like I feel you having a 4 out of 5 time with a film of this sort and me having a 3 out of 5 time with it is the same, basically.
I think you're probably right. I do have more room in my heart for this. I was the one who decided that this was our theme anyway. That's
true. I will say that if this movie is 40 minutes long, I don't know what that means because we don't have 40-minute long movies. My biggest objection by far, I mean, I was not thrilled with the acting, I will say that. But other than that, my biggest objection by far is the length. I think it just doesn't have enough content for the length.
Yeah, and I think, as we kind of said, I think we disagree on how much it is too long, or by how much it is too long, but it is too long. I agree.
And, I mean, every movie's too long. Every single goddamn movie ever made is too long, so this is my most uninspired criticism. But,
but it can still be impactful.
Yes.
Is there anything else that we haven't really covered?
I think we pretty much covered it all. I mean, I think, again, it's not a movie that has airs to be more than it is. I think you can kind of say, well, it's trying to be about toxic masculinity and it's not getting there. But, like, does it need to? Is that a problem with this film? I think it's a good time. I think if you are someone who is interested in watching a movie about a killer dentist called The Dentist, you will enjoy this movie.
Yes, and especially with the Brian Yuzna of it all. If that is a name that excites you, this is certainly one that's going to deliver what you kind of think it might.
It is very much what if he made society for an actual audience rather than just fucked up freak gorehounds.
Yeah. And I mean, part of that, Screaming Mad George did not touch the special effects on this movie. This would be a very different movie if he had. I wonder if it would be better. I don't know that it would. I think this needed a little bit more of a toned down approach.
Probably.
But the person who did this was Anthony Ferrante, who went on to direct the Sharknado movies. So
well, there you go. I knew that name for some reason. I didn't bother looking it up, but there we go.
Mm-hmm. So, different careers. But anyway, yeah, I think that's gonna probably do it for us about The Dentist. But I will probably watch it again before 12 months have passed, because I did not get to watch it with Ben, and I think he will like it.
Okay.
So I'll probably watch it again pretty soon, and I am not mad about that. Like, I think it was fun.
Are you going to track down The Dentist 2?
I own The Dentist 2 on Blu-ray.
Well, then the tracking will not take very long.
No, I will have to look in my shelf, but it's alphabetized, so yeah, not much of a challenge.
Terrific.
I have a Blu-ray that is The Dentist with The Dentist 2.
Okay. That's the reason I own the direct-to-video Pocahontas sequel. So.
Oh my.
We all live the lives that we have been given by God.
Well, The Dentist 2, brace yourself. I am actually quite. I'm anticipating it. I think there's no way it can be as good as The Dentist. But I did not think there was any way that The Dentist could be as good as The Dentist.
Sure.
And Brian Yuzna does return for The Dentist too.
Oh, does he?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that does get me a little interested.
Yeah, we do have. Okay, so here's what there is a non-zero chance that we will watch this in January. So let me pitch it. Brian Yuzna's back. Corbin Bernsen's back. We do. Not many other characters are back. I mean, most of them are dead. We do have Linda Hoffman back as the wife, Brooke. We also have Wendy Roby from Twin Peaks.
That is a pitch that works on me.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess maybe stay tuned for that. But yeah, until then, you can find more episodes of this show and others on alternateending.com. Reviews and stuff are also there. Not recently, but that's okay.
I've just recently completed a move, and it was a very stressful move. And now I get to start writing again.
Yeah, we do not blame you. I'm not pointing fingers. But next up on the show, if I am correct, we're gonna get to the October preview. Am I right?
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Hell yeah! So stay tuned for that. Anyway, that's the end of the show. Bye.
She ate me.